Saul now is going to anointed or become announced as the king of Israel in public in the next verses, in the next chapter. But then we see that there were some people that didn't like this idea. So some people are following Saul, but others are saying, how come this one, this very modest man from a very a small family in Benjamin, going to be the one that is going to redeem the people and save them from the Philistines? And then we read about the first act, the first deed that Saul is doing, actually saving the people of Yavesh Gilad, the people of Jabesh Gilad in Transjordan that were actually enslaved and menaced in a very cruel way, brutal way by the king of Ammon, the eastern neighbor of Israel. Now Nachash, the Ammonite, came up and besieged Yabesh Gilad. And all the men of Yabesh said to Nachash, make a covenant with us, and we will serve you. But Nachash the Ammonite said to them, I will make it with you on this condition, that I will gouge you out the right eye of every one of you. Thus I will make it a reproach on all Israel. So now the elders of Jabesh Gilad are turning to Nachash, the king of Ammon, and saying, we're going to look for help in Israel and come back to you after 7 days. And they go and look for help. The help is going eventually to come from Saul in the first step of him becoming actually the savior of Israel. Now behold, Saul was coming from the field behind the oxen, and he said, what is the matter with the people that they weep? So they related to him the words of the men of Yabesh. Then the Spirit of God came upon Saul mightily when he heard these words, and he became very angry. He took a yoke of oxen and cut them in pieces, and sent them throughout the territory of Israel by the hand of messengers, saying, Whoever does not come out of after Saul and after Samuel, so shall it be done to his oxen. What Saul is doing now is actually doing something which is very similar to the story that we read in the book of Judges, when judges like Gideon or Iftach are actually summoning the people in order to go to war against the local enemy, in this case, the king of Ammon. In this case, to save a very small group of people, the people of Yavesh in the Gilad. Eventually, this act, when he's cutting an ox and sending the pieces in all the tribes of Israel, is having a great impact, and the people, maybe out of fear of this new leader, are going after him and going into war, which ends with a tremendous success. The next morning, Saul put to the people in 3 companies, and they came into the midst of the camp at the morning, watched and struck down the Ammonites until the heat of the day. Those who survived were scattered so that no 2 of them were left together. A great victory. And the response of the people, then the people said to Samuel, who is he that said, shall Saul reign over us? Bring the men, that we may put them to death. But Saul said, not a man shall be put to death this day, for today the Lord has accomplished deliverance in Israel. So we could very easily take this story about saving the people of Yavesh by Saul and plant it in the book of Judges. It's the same story. We see that both Samuel and Saul are acting like those charismatic leaders that with the Spirit of the Lord are saving the people of Israel from their enemies. But this act of saving is actually an introduction to the public anointment of Saul in front of the people, as we read in the following verses. Then Samuel said to the people, come and let us go to Gilgal and renew the kingdom there. So all the people went to Gilgal, and there they made Saul king before the Lord in Gilgal. There they also offered sacrifices of peace offerings before the Lord, and there Saul and all the men of Israel rejoiced greatly. A very nice, happy ending of the story. So all the problems now were solved. There is a new leader, there is a king now. He proved his capabilities in the battlefield, and now he has this charismatic force to gather all the people around him. But as we're going to see in a moment, the story doesn't turn into a happy ending, let's say, at least in the eyes of the first king of Israel, King Saul. So after the great victory over the Ammonites and the saving of the people of Yavesh Gilad, now is the time of Saul to face the great enemy, the Philistines. So we read in chapter 13 in the first book of Samuel. Now Saul chose for himself 3,000 men of Israel, of which 2,000 were with Saul in Michmash and in the hill country of Bethel, while 1,000 were with Jonathan at Gibeah of Benjamin. Jonathan, of course, the prince, the son of Saul. But he sent away the rest of the people, each to his tent. Jonathan smote the garrison of the Philistine that was in Geba, and the Philistines heard of it. Then Saul blew the trumpet throughout the land, saying, "Let the Hebrews hear." All Israel heard the news that Saul had smitten the garrison of the Philistines, and also that Israel had become odious to the Philistines. The people were then summoned to Saul at Gilgal. So the first act of Saul against the Philistines is to attack the garrison, which was not far away from the area that we are now, in the area of Michmash, north of Nebi Samuel. And by attacking this garrison, actually now the Philistine is going to understand that there is a new enemy in town, and now they have to retaliate. So Saul is now summoning the people at the site of Gilgal, which is to the east of us, in the area of Jericho, while the Philistines are organizing in this area where we are now. The thing is that when Saul and his people are now in Gilgal, while the Philistines are organizing right here in this area, and now we read, now he waited 7 days, Saul, according to the appointed time set by Samuel. But Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattering from him. So Saul said, "Bring to me the burnt offering and the peace offering." And he offered the burnt offering. As soon as he finished offering the burnt offering, behold, Samuel came, and Saul went out to meet him and to greet him. But Samuel said, "What have you done?" And Saul said, "Because I saw that the people were scattering from me, and that you did not come within the appointed days, and that the Philistines were assembling at Michmash. Therefore I said, now the Philistines will come down against me at Gilgal, and I have not asked the favor of the Lord. So I forced myself and offered the burnt offering." The response of Samuel was furious. He is telling him, "You have acted foolishly, and you have not kept the commandment of the Lord and your God, which he commanded you, for now the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever. But now your kingdom shall not endure. The Lord has sought out for himself a man after his own heart, and the Lord has appointed him as ruler over his people, because you have not kept what the Lord commanded you." So here we see for the first time right after the big success of Saul in his first victory, now he's about to actually face the main enemy and actually the big challenges that's the reason why he actually was chosen for. But now he has the first confrontation with the man that appointed him, Samuel, the man of God. And here we see for the first time that there is a kind of conflict between two authorities, the political and military authority, the king, Saul, and the man of God, which is of course the spiritual leader that up till that moment was actually also leading the people against the Philistines, and we can say in some way was rejected by the people. So we see that probably Samuel did not forget actually what was happening and his harsh response to what Saul did. And we ask ourselves actually what was the big sin, what was the big problem in what Samuel did. He actually did a very logical thing. He didn't want that the people would spread around and leave him before the big battle. But then in the eyes of Samuel, in the eyes of God, that was a big sin. And already we have here a hint about what is going to happen in the near future, when another person, another one that will please the eyes of the God, will be actually replacing Saul. And here for the first time we have this moment when we see that from this point onwards, Saul's career is going to descend, while in the meantime another protagonist will going to appear, and this of course we're talking about David. David was going to start his career in the court of Saul, and eventually is going to replace him as the king of all Israel. But that actually was not the first or the only problem or the only conflict between Samuel and Saul. After the great victory that Saul and especially Jonathan, in what we might call Operation Jonathan, took place in the area of Michmash, when Jonathan and his attendant were attacking the Philistine garrison all by themselves, and caused a huge turmoil and panic in the Philistine camp that actually led to the great victory that Saul inflicted on them, of course with the help of God. Now Samuel is going to send Saul to another task, and this task is to revenge a historical issue between the people of Israel and the Amalekites. This tribe of nomads, those people that during the sojourn in the desert were attacking the people of Israel, especially the old people, the very, very poor ones in the way in the desert. And this is actually what Samuel is demanding of Saul. And this is what Samuel is saying to Saul: "The Lord sent me to anoint you as king over his people, over Israel. Now therefore, listen to the words of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I will punish Amalek for what he did to Israel. Now he set himself against him on the way while he was coming up from Egypt. Now go and strike Amalek and utterly destroy all that he has, and do not spare him, but put to death both man and woman, child and infant, ox and sheep, camel and donkey." So the order, the command, the divine command here is to actually utterly defeat Amalek and not to spare anyone, not people, not animal, something which is actually reminds us of the command of Cherem, of actually the total destruction of the people of Canaan, as the people of Israel were commanded before they entered into the promised land in the time of Joshua. So the order here is very, very clear. And yet, Saul is actually inflicting a great disaster over the Amalekites, but he fails to fulfill the entire order that he was given, and therefore he is sparing the animals and also the king of the Amalekites, Agag. So the response of Samuel is harsh, even more than when he actually accused Saul before of not fulfilling his command to wait for him in Gilgal and not sacrifice before his coming. So Samuel is saying to him, "Is it not true, though you were little in your own eyes, you were made the head of the tribes of Israel? And the Lord anointed you king over Israel. And the Lord sent you on a mission and said, 'Go and utterly destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they are exterminated.' Why then did you not obey the voice of the Lord, but rushed upon the spoils and did what was evil in the sight of the Lord?" And then he continues and saying, "Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he also rejected you from being king." Then Saul said to Samuel, "I have sinned. I have indeed transgressed the command of the Lord and your words, because I fear the people and listen to their voice. Now therefore, please pardon my sin and return with me, that I may worship the Lord." But Samuel said to Saul, "I will not return with you, for you have rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord has rejected you from being king over Israel." As Samuel turned to go, Saul seized the edge of his robe and he tore. So Samuel said to him, "The Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you today and has given it to your neighbor, who is better than you. Also the glory of Israel will not lie or change his mind, for he is not a man that he should change his mind." So here again we see the second time when Saul failed to obey what he was commanded to do, but this time it is more severe because it's not a kind of a personal act against the leadership of Samuel, the spiritual and religious leadership of Samuel as happened in Gilgal, but this time he actually did not fulfill a direct command of God, which was going all the way in history to the time of the sojourn in the desert and the time of Moses. And therefore, for the second time, now Samuel is promising Saul that his kingship is going to be given to a better person, better than him. So, in those two moments, in the very early career of Saul, and again we have a big problem when we try to actually find out what was the length of the reign of Saul over Israel, because the text in Samuel says that he only reigned for 2 years, and therefore we are not sure what was really happening afterwards, but already in a very, very early moment in the story, we see that Saul disappointed Samuel, and Samuel is promising that a better man is going to be chosen, actually paving the way for the emergence of David, who's going to be introduced in the eyes of Saul very, very soon. So from that moment, we're going to see how the divine spirit that helped Saul in his great victory over the Ammonites and later over the Philistines and the Amalekites is now going to be transformed into an evil spirit that's going to haunt him. So Saul failed to fulfill the divine command and did not kill Agag, the king of the Amalekites. Samuel has to do it. Then Samuel said, "Bring me Agag, the king of the Amalekites." And Agag came to him cheerfully. And Agag said, "Surely the bitterness of death is past." But Samuel said, "As your sword has made woman childless, so shall your mother be childless among women. And Samuel hewed Agag to pieces before the Lord at Gilgal. And then we read, then Samuel went to Ramah, not far away from here, but Saul went up to his house at Gibeah of Saul. Samuel did not see Saul again until the day of his death, for Samuel grieved over Saul, and the Lord regretted that he had made Saul king over Israel. This pivotal moment is when actually both God and Samuel reject Saul, and now they are going to choose a better person for the task. This moment is also described in a way that the charismatic spirit that helped Saul to overcome his enemies, the Ammonites, the Philistines, and the Amalekites, now is turning to become an evil spirit. Now the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord terrorized him. Saul's servants then said to him, behold now, an evil spirit from God is terrorizing you. Let our Lord now command your servants who are before you. Let them seek a man who is skillful player on a harp, and it shall come about when the evil spirit from God is on you, that he shall play the harp with his hand, and you will be well. This is, of course, the starting point when a young boy that was not known to anyone until this moment is going to be introduced to the court of Saul, and actually is going to be the man, the chosen man that is going to replace him and become the king of Israel.